Tim, tell me how this works as a theory, because it's the only thing I could think of when they made that trade. Or I guess it's like a two-parter, because I kind of thought they had a better chance at winning this year with Porzingis than what they have now. But I feel like the pieces they have now will be more movable in order to try to end up with where you're trying to get to.
I don't disagree with either of those. I think Gavin wants me to pump a bunch of sunshine up your butt.
Come on, Timmy!
I'll try to do that. If you want to put me in that box as far as why maybe do the Mavericks have a better chance now to compete this year as opposed to before the deal was done, obviously availability matters. And, unfortunately, Porzingis was very often not available. Dinwiddie and Bertans both honestly stunk it up for the Wizards this season, but they have proven track records. And, the Mavericks had a clear need for some scoring, somebody who could create off of the bench, especially after Hardaway went down. Dinwiddie has done that in his career. Bertans, I honestly, he signed a big deal and just things went bad for him in Washington, but he has a track record as a guy who is an elite, not just spot-up shooter, but coming off the screens, one of the elite long-range shooters in the league at 6'10", and you got to figure that he's going to get some good looks with Luka delivering the ball. So, look, both those guys could come in here and be contributors for the Mavericks. They could, I could see them as guys who really boost that bench. But as far as top end potential, you at least could, you saw glimpses of star potential, of star performance in Porzingis, and the hope always was, hey, can he put a stretch of that together at the right time? But the hope became exceedingly slim the more and more he wasn't available. And then when he was on the floor, he was honestly, Porzingis was pretty good when he was on the floor this year. But there's a big difference between pretty good and bona fide co-star that gives you a chance to compete for a championship.
Tim, if you had to say, was KP more happy or is Luka more happy about this trade?
Honestly, I don't think either of them were just giddy about it. KP, I don't think is happy about it at all. And here's the thing: we all understand that relationship last year was really not great, right? Awkward at best. As far as I know, and I think I've got a pretty good feel, they were fine this year. Yeah, I think that once Rick left, they both felt refreshed. They kind of adapted up at the beginning of camp and kept it moving. I don't think this was, I put it this way. Luka, I really do not believe he called for this. Obviously they're going to consult him on things. I don't think he put his foot down, and obviously didn't put his foot down and say, hey, we can't do this. But I don't think this was something where Luka was like, yes, we got rid of KP. I think what he said last night was pretty true. It was just like, it didn't work out. They'd hoped they would build something big. It didn't work out. It's a business and keep it moving. But Porzingis, man, this is humbling. This isn't something he's celebrating. He was hoping, new coach, new opportunity in Dallas. He liked the city, thought he'd have a chance to play for a winner here, and he kind of goes to a Washington franchise that's kind of in disarray, and he goes there with the understanding, okay, when he came to Dallas, he came here as the prize of a blockbuster. He goes to Washington, it's kind of like, man, the Mavs really kind of just dumped him.
Yeah.
And that's a humbling thing for a guy who, fourth overall pick, an all-star at a young age. People thought he had superstar potential. So, I think he's not exactly ecstatic about the situation himself.
Tim, were the Mavs close to moving on from the contract for Hardaway Jr.?
I don't think I can say with confidence that they were close. I obviously they had a lot of discussions about it. I wonder if he had been hurt, if he would have been traded. I think, with him having surgery, being out at least for a while, if not the rest of the season, that made it that much more difficult. But, the Mavericks' priorities going into this deadline were clearly trying to create a little bit more flexibility moving forward. And when we say flexibility, we're not talking about cap space, just to be clear. they're not going to have cap space for a while. It's hard to have cap space when you've got a guy whose supermax extension's about to kick in. But, you are talking about being able to duck under the luxury tax and not having to pay, what becomes like putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be a repeat luxury tax team, which really limits what you can do. And, just being able to, again, have pieces that are more movable, give you a chance to try to maybe make upgrades in the trade market instead of, going into this deadline where they were really just trying to get off some money. But the thing about it is this, like usually to get off of money, you've got to give up picks. Mavericks cannot give up picks. They still owe one to New York for the Porzingis deal. And if they're ever going to make a major upgrade via trade, which they, at some point they better, if there's a real hope of getting a co-star here alongside Luka, you better have those picks. You better have those picks available to spend, because it's like cigarettes in the pokey. That's the currency.
Do they have a chance to make the trade for that secondary star that you're talking about until they get those picks? Are we just turning over the roster and being patient till then?
Well, look, they have. They'll get off the New York picks soon. They'll have picks moving forward. It's not so at this point. It's not about the picks because the fact they didn't spend any extra ones. I would have put them in a rough spot if they'd have given up another pick going forward. Here's the deal, and you've seen it. You've seen it 2 years in a row with James Harden, for example. At this point, it's about having a star say, "I want to be traded to Dallas." Make that happen. So you hope that you're not on the wrong end of that. You hope it doesn't reach a point, 3, 4, 5 years down the road where Luka's the one saying, "I want to be traded to Team X." But one of the great things about having a guy like Luka is there's no question that, people around the league, players around the league, stars around the league look at him and say, hey, that's a dude who's capable of being the best player on a championship team. So the hope is, as things shake out with other situations, one of those stars says, get me to Dallas to play with Luka Doncic. I want to go compete for a championship, and that's a guy who gives me a great chance.